There's this very strange and interesting thing that happens every once in a blue moon in the world of video games when something that starts as a meme or something that was memed to oblivion, something that really wasn't ever given a fair shot, whether that be because of budget restrictions, whether it be because of fan reception or development or whatever, when that half-realized, half-baked idea suddenly grows up into something truly special. And for me, and for a lot of other people that I've talked to, that game is Nickelodeon All-Star Brawl 2. When the first game came out, it was back in 2021. I was actually working at GameStop at the time, and I was very excited. I was doing a lot of advertising in my local area. It was one of the games that I wanted to love so badly. It had the right idea. Nickelodeon characters in a Smash-style fighter was a dream. How could that not work? How could that not be amazing? Well, it felt off. The gameplay was tight in a competitive sense, but it was still very floaty. It felt very half-baked, and the soul wasn't really there. There were no voice acting. The presentation felt extremely dry, and the lack of content made it feel more like a promising mod over a Smash Brothers game than a fully realized game. It was fun, sure, I own it on both PlayStation and Switch. I actually enjoy the core mechanics quite a bit, but you could just tell that it wasn't finished. And that is what makes Nickelodeon All-Star Brawl 2 such a beautiful redemption story. It's not a sequel that just fixes the first game's problems. It's not just a reskin with a little bit better graphics and they called it a day. It's a complete reinvention of that first game that understands why people love platform fighters and love these characters. It is a game that's made by a team that clearly listened and cared and refused to let this franchise fade into a one-and-done curiosity. Let's start with the most obvious thing that most people look for in a platform fighter, which is the roster, because it has quite a lineup. The first game had a solid foundation, right? SpongeBob, Danny Phantom, Invader Zim, Nigel Thornberry, but they felt more like representatives of their shows rather than fully realized versions of themselves, primarily because there were no voices. All-Star Brawl 2 changes that entirely. Every single fighter, whether that be because of their new model, or the new animations, or the new graphics, they feel alive. They're expressive, they talk, they emote, they all have interesting different dialogue and interactions with each other. SpongeBob's goofy optimism is there. Zim's manic rage is there. Donatello's brains, it all comes through, and it comes through perfectly. The roster also feels a little more focused this time. Not everyone from the first game made the cut, which is a negative that I will throw at this game. I don't understand why platform fighters do this. But the new additions like Jimmy Neutron, Ember McLean, Squidward, and my GOAT, Mr. Krabs, and Toph and April, they make the cast feel more balanced and more meaningful. Every character now has unique moves that tie deeply into the source material. Not just random punches or kicks. Every single move, whether it's up neutral, down air, every single one has a reference to something that their character has said or done in their show. Jimmy fights with inventions and gadgets. Donatello uses his intelligence to outthink his opponents. And even Plankton in his mech feels like a fully fleshed out fighter instead of just a joke pick. And this is not just fan service either. It is great game design. Every fighter has distinct playstyles that they make the roster feel deep without it having 40, 50 characters, without it being bloated. It is the kind of variety that you would only get when you have developers that know every corner of the Nicktoons universe, and they care about both balance and personality. I would argue the most glaring absence from the first game was the voice acting. You couldn't go 2 scrolls on Reddit talking about this game without seeing someone complaining about it. The silence was weird. It turned these iconic characters into just 3D puppets. You could be fighting a SpongeBob, but if he wasn't saying I'm ready or giggling mid-battle, it just didn't feel like SpongeBob. The sequel fixes that in the most triumphant way possible. Everyone's got their voice back, and not just any voices, but the real ones. Tom Kenny, Bill Fagerbakke, Rob Paulson, Billy West, Richard Horvitz, all of the legend themselves, Clancy Brown, Roger Bumpus, they're all here. Hearing Zim scream, "You dare oppose me, fool?" Or SpongeBob shout with pure glee as he is getting absolutely obliterated by Aang adds a layer of nostalgia and just much needed energy that was just completely gone in the first game. It's such a simple thing, but what makes All-Star Brawl 2 feel alive is that, the voices. These characters talk, they banter, they react exactly like they should. You're no longer imagining the Nickelodeon world, you are in it, living, breathing, and fighting in it. Now, I had to be honest for a sec. When I heard that they were adding a campaign to this game, I assumed immediately, because I was a little bit burned. Again, I enjoyed the first game for what it was, but it was definitely disappointing. And I assumed that the campaign would just be filler. Maybe a basic arcade mode with a few cutscenes slapped on, but no. All-Star Brawl 2's campaign is so much more than that. It is a fully realized, fully fleshed out story with an actual, engaging plot, voice acting, roguelike elements, upgrades, perks, and character interactions. Again, distinct character interactions depending on who you are playing as that feel straight out of their shows. You're traveling through different Nickelodeon worlds, fighting corrupted versions of familiar faces, and you get them to join your team, your roster, after you defeat them, and teaming up with some unlikely characters. It gives context to the chaos, like it makes the fighting feel warranted. It makes each fight feel like part of something bigger. And the way that it mixes fan service with genuinely great gameplay structure, unlocking characters, discovering new routes, getting a different power-up. It is shockingly addictive. And it's a story that is extremely well told. You can absolutely tell that the developers at Game Mill, at Fairplay Labs, they didn't just want this to be Smash with Nick characters and call it a day. They wanted an adventure. And they gave an adventure. And somehow, they pulled it off. This isn't just me talking either. You can go, IGN gave this game a 9. The campaign gives the game heart. And it gives players like myself a reason to keep coming back beyond just online matches. Playing a different character, getting good with Aang, or getting good with Garfield, because Mr. Krabs, obviously, he's my main. But seeing what the different interactions are with the other characters as we go through this roguelike campaign is so fun. And from a mechanical standpoint, All-Star Brawl 2 is light years ahead of its predecessor. The combat feels smoother, it feels weightier, it's not as floaty, and it feels more intentional. The addition of the slime meter, which is this game's best innovation, I would say, gives fights a whole new layer of strategy, and it lets you pull off some devastating special moves, extended combos, or recover in ways that add depth without overcomplicating things. That has been not a complaint to a lot, because Smash is a very accessible game, but I would argue All-Star Brawl 2 might be even more accessible. The movement feels incredible. It feels fluid, responsive, with just enough speed to make every exchange feel intense, but very readable. The balance is sharper, the hit detection is cleaner, and the animations actually flow together naturally. It's like the first game's competitive groundwork finally got the presentation, the refinement, the work, the budget that it deserved. And honestly, it's just fun. It's just a fun game, and platform fighters aren't even my favorite type of games to play, but this one is just so special. Now, this is where we're going to get a little nitty-gritty for a sec, because I know a lot of you probably don't even know what this is, but we have to talk about the online play for a sec, because this is where All-Star Brawl 2 cements itself as a serious platform fighter, and is why it is still one of the front runners in platform fighting competitions, tournaments that are happening literally today. rollback netcode. Those two words are basically a badge of honor at this point. It's what separates a casual platform fighter from a real competitive experience. And the fact that a Nickelodeon game has better online stability than some major platform fighting games from AAA studios is absolutely wild. The matches are smooth, the inputs are responsive, and lag is practically non-existent. It means you can have intense, frame-perfect fights with friends across the country while it might feel like they are sitting right next to you in the same room. For competitive players, it was a dream. And for casual fans, it's completely invisible. You'll never know it's there. And that's exactly how you know that it's working. And then there is the presentation. Y'all remember how sterile the first game looked? It looked okay, but it looked half-baked. Flat backgrounds, the stages were empty, the menus were so generic. All-Star Brawl 2 throws all of that out the window and replaces it with color, character, and style. The art direction is cohesive now across all characters and stages, vibrant and beautiful without being oversaturated, with stages that actually feel like places from the shows. Even the UI feels like a Nickelodeon cartoon. It's bouncy, it's energetic, and it's refined and clean. It is a complete identity shift from the first game. Now here's the thing, I know I've been yapping a lot, but All-Star Brawl 2 didn't have to be this good. It didn't. The first one sold, it sold very well. It could have been a simple sequel. It could have been a fix the first one and move on kind of situation. And we're going to talk in a sec why I'm calling this a forgotten masterpiece. But this game isn't a fix the first one and move on type situation. It is a complete labor of love. The game proved that a licensed title, it doesn't have to settle for mediocrity. It can stand shoulder to shoulder with the big players, not by copying them, but by owning what makes this IP unique. It's silly, it's nostalgic, it's fast, but it's deep. It's Nickelodeon through and through. For a lot of people, this is more than a fighting game. It's a celebration of so many of these iconic characters that made our childhood. It is a dream crossover we used to imagine on playgrounds, but now it's actually real, and it's a genuinely master-level platform fighting experience. Now, when I say it's a forgotten masterpiece, I don't necessarily mean the fans forgot it, because we haven't. It still has a very alive, thriving, competitive atmosphere. It's still, again, one of the front runners in platform fighter tournaments and online events. The subreddit is still going strong. I believe there's a Discord that is absolutely thriving. And to top it all off, it's just a good game. And after it launched, we did get some DLC. We got some new stages and we got some new characters. Mr. Krabs included, thankfully. But after that, it was done. There was no more support. The first game had support much longer than this one did. And myself and many other people find that extremely odd, because this game is better and more well regarded in every single aspect than the first game. And yet, where's the support? Again, we got some awesome DLC, and the game that we have right now is unbelievably good. But I feel like it could have done so much more. And I know it was probably a Nickelodeon decision. I'm sure these devs could have worked on this game for a decade if they wanted to. But I don't, there probably wasn't the money, there wasn't the budget, whatever. It's just really unfortunate that this game was just cut off way too early, because it is so special. And when I think about All-Star Brawl 2, I don't think of it as just the quote better sequel. I think of it as proof that passion in gaming matters. Look at Battle for Bikini Bottom Rehydrated. Look at Cosmic Shake, Titans of the Tide. The developers could have easily given up after the, we'll say, lukewarm response of the first game, and they would have thrown in the towel. But instead, they rebuilt literally everything from the ground up. The roster, the voices, the campaign, the netcode, the presentation, all of it comes together to create something that is genuinely special. It is a masterpiece story of redemption and a blueprint for how to take a good idea and finally make it great. It's not just the best Nickelodeon fighting game, it is one of the most important ones. I would argue one of the most important Nickelodeon games ever, because it shows what happens when you stop chasing nostalgia and start honoring it. And honestly, I don't just think Nickelodeon All-Star Brawl 2 is a success and a great game. I think it is right up there as one of the best fighting games that we have gotten ever.